And then we'd only need 6/10 of a second or 7/10 of a second to get the armor from the HEV charging unit. What do they call it in the hazard course? The freaking what's her name? Gloria. I can't remember the stupid hologram name. Does anyone know the name of that hologram chick in I'm just trying to blank. In the hazard course. Da, da, da. Anyone remember her name? I'm curious. Through a hazardous environment. HEV vacuum. Did anyone play? I don't know if I played that hazard course before I played the game Half-Life. I don't remember. One thing I do remember was when I was first playing that, it was like just so dark when you had your brightness and gamma like low. At that one part you're supposed to use the flashlight. I guess it wasn't that hard, but if you just had like adjusted it so your brightness and gamma on your NVIDIA settings were just higher, it's like not dark at all. Like you can hardly even tell the difference between like the part where you're supposed to use your flashlight and where you're not, and it's just like use your flashlight here so you can see, but it's like you can just see perfectly fine. You can't even really tell that it's supposed to even be darker there. That was one of the funny things I thought in that hazard course. Like, oh, use your flashlight here. It's like, yes, Gina! There we go. Gina Cross. Yeah, Gina. Yeah, it's Gina. I don't know about Cross, but I remember that Gina. It's funny, Maverick made like a mod. I think it was Maverick. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Maverick. He made like a co-op sort of speedrunning mod, sort of. It wasn't really speed. It was just like a co-op Half-Life mod, and then he fixed like a lot of the bugs in Half-Life and made it so you could like pick up the objects and stuff, and then you could change between characters. You could be like the scientist who could like syringe your teammates. You could be Gordon, who had like the HEV suit, or you could be Gina, that had the long jump module, something like that. Or you could be Barney, who had like the pistol instead of crowbar or whatever. That was kind of cool. And he was like, yeah, Gina, because Gina is like versed in all of the jumps and sort of stuff. She teaches you about the long jump module. But yeah, Gina, the hazardous environmental suit. So this thing, yeah, I think it's reasonable that we could get the 6 or 7 armor. So if I were to replan this run, we were to redo it, this is probably what we would do. And we end up saving over a second. And it'd look a lot sweeter too. Stopwatch. So what speed are we at? 0.13. Go back. So I'm trying to get a rough estimate here if this would work out. I think it would be. So it could probably be at the HEV suit right then. Getting charging and whatnot. Make it a lot harder. But here I think we would have to be like right here. We couldn't be at the HEV suit anymore. Might be able to run back and get like one more point there. So that's about 15 seconds at 0.13 speed. Oh, yeah, that's plenty of time. it's like almost 2 seconds. We could be getting armor. We only need like 0.6 or 0.7. So yeah, you could easily get 0.6 or 0.7 armor from that thing. So then our armor we'd have 100 health and 7 or 6 armor here. And then there'd be no need to do this damage with the grenade boost, so that would save the grenade that we'd use by doing the elevator, little jump off the light there, so the grenades would be fine. And then you get the medkit in here, you'd still be at 100 health, and then you would take the extra 19. So instead of taking 53, ideally, I mean, again, it would depend on the amount of speed you had at the bottom, and if you had 6 or 7 armor, but ideally you would take 72 damage. Yeah, 72 damage. It'd be 72 damage would be the magic number for this. Skip? No? Yeah, for this right here. This would be 72, so we'd be at 28 health instead of 47, and this would be faster. It'd save almost exactly a second, 1.00 seconds, because of the extra speed for this whole section right here. Another interesting bit, probably almost no one knows besides maybe Quad and I, was back when I was planning to make another segmented run. My first plan for this, I mean, obviously we were planning to do a grenade boost here and use the, the good bunny hopping with, the special script where you don't spend any friction frames on the ground because you're at the right FPS interval, which coincidentally works out to be 1,000 divided by an integer, so FPS value is like 100, 83 and a third, 250. So I think so there should be one between 250. 33 and a third, 500. FPS values like that. If you're using this special script, which is what obviously we're able to do here, because this is using a mod which essentially negates the stupid thing Valve did with the 1.1.8 patch, basically 1.1.8, the 8 patch where the bunny hop cap was implemented. But then that's also where the special command came into play. So you could have a script that runs at this, precise sort of interval of jumping. So you end up always getting a jump the first frame you touch the ground, which is something I couldn't do when I was running on 1.6 because there's no special. So I had to use just a script that shotguns jump, like 3 or 5 times whenever I press a button. So with that thing, on average, you're gonna spin 1 frame on the ground for every 50% of all your jumps are gonna have 1 frame of friction. And then also as at 60 or 100 FPS, so that frame is pretty large, so you end up losing a lot of friction. So if you try to b-hop this section with a script like that and like 60 FPS, you can't really get a lot of speed. You can build up speed, but depending on your curving and whatnot, you're gonna kind of cap out, I want to say, like around like 1,000 maybe, if you're really good and lucky, because if you catch more friction frames with the jumping, you lose a lot of speed. Like if you're at 900 speed and you spin 1/60th of a second on the ground in friction, you lose about like 30 units per second, and then in the time you do the next jump, if you're good, you might be able to gain that 30 back, but probably not. I mean, at a point, it has diminishing returns. You can't accelerate as fast when your velocity is greater. And also, when your velocity is greater, you lose more speed from friction than when your velocity is slower. So eventually you get to a point where the speed you lose from the friction is greater than the speed you're gaining while you're in the air. But if you just have a special script, you don't have to worry about any of that, as long as you're on flat ground like this. So there are zero frames of friction. So it's super efficient to just bunny hop through here really fast. You go way faster than the tram. And so I was planning to do a throwdown grenade here and boost up to here, and I found you could do it. I think it was 12 damage was all you needed to jump, like, basically from here up onto this thing. And then, there's also considering like using the slope here on these sort of rolly things, and this slope here. And then Ravix at some point, I think in 2010, made a demo where he just bunny hopped under here and then used this slope up here, and like, okay, that's sweet. That's probably a little slower than using the grenade, but you save the grenade, you save the damage, you don't have to finagle with your armor and health and stuff. But then at some point later in the planning, this slope was really the best one for all that. And a lot of us had spent time trying to figure out, okay, break some of these and what are the best slope options, and there's really not too many, but this one is just great right here. This is the best one. Yeah, how was I going with that? I don't know. That's just a history there. History lesson in Half-Life speedrunning. And this was even a thing I had considered for my segmented run, but it was hard, that I did, I was planning like back in 2003, but it was hard to justify the usage of the grenade and the health for the amount of time it would have saved, again with the frictional bunny hopping at lower FPS. It's not really quite as efficient. It's something I wanted to do, but I ultimately decided that using the grenade boosts like I did in the run to go from wing to wing was saving more time than this would have saved. And I'm still confident that was the correct call given my circumstances. Yeah, so if we were redoing this, this would have been faster and cooler and more stuff. Then we would be at 28 health right here, 19 less health. And then go faster. And then we'd be at 48 and 20 armor. This was a cool thing Quad really helped me out with. Was this grenade boost here. Because Quad is just great with these circle jumps and stuff. And I really wanted to find out, the most speed you could possibly exit this elevator lift with, and how much damage you would take from a grenade. And it was so lucky that it worked out that 20 armor was the perfect amount for this. That was just super luck, because there's 2 batteries there, so you can go down to 0 armor. from boost, and then you pick it up, you're at 20, and this just so happened, I mean, there was going to be a lot of other shit we were going to do to manage this armor and boost and other routes and considerations, but it just so happened that 20 armor was just perfect. So exiting this lift, Quad helped me work out the most speed and the fastest way to exit this lift through that, and then from that I was able to calculate at what armor's values, and if you threw the grenade in front of you or directly behind you, how much damage you would take and how much speed you could get. And I worked out the minimum amount of speed needed to jump from this railing up here to make it across this gap and all of that. And then at some point in the process of testing this, I figured out this little stuff here. You could almost say just on accident, but how nicely this how nicely this thing works out right here. Does anyone know a good way to stop without? Anyway, this thing right here, I worked out just kind of through dumb luck almost that you can edge bug on that light right there, and it works out really well. And then if you do edge bug on that light, this was again just through my mini trials of testing out how this our route options to help with the planning, to plan this stuff, how this would work out. So it just kind of happened in one of my attempts, to find the minimum speed needed to clear that gap and stuff, that you could edge bug on that light, and then if you just have, you're holding the special jump script this whole time, you end up getting the edge jump bug off that railing there, because it's it's kind of a big little things like this are kind of a lot of the sort of micromanagement and segments and how things work out, and ultimately decide how, in a macro sense, how the run is planned and the routes you take. But because you have a lot of options at your disposal in Half-Life to adjust, your speeds and your routes and your air control, but you're also quite limited. So this sort of thing, we wanted to find the minimum speed to clear this gap, and again, you have the option, maybe you want to take more damage here to go faster, through this next part, but my calculations showed that was not true at all. You wanted to take the minimum amount. If you could, we would have taken less damage and put more boost into that other boost, because it's a lot longer, and that's just how the numbers worked out. But so for this gap, we wanted to take the minimum amount, and it actually really isn't that far off from the ideal amount. It's just a little bit too much still, but to clear this gap, and then clearing the next gap from here is not so easy either. And then there's also we were thinking considering going to the left here down this wing too. Is that maybe faster, even if we are able to box boost up over this wing? This was this was one of the hardest things to calculate and plan out, with the routing. And this is probably my favorite part of the whole game, Half-Life, where you open up into this blast pit here, and you've got you come from one wing, and you've got 3 other wings that you can go down, and you've got this central thing in there with tentacle and stuff. Because I think this is the most non-linear part of the whole game. But again, it's I really like this, because it's not like a free world sort of thing, like Legend of Zelda. It's like, yeah, do whatever the fuck you want, collect money, buy weapons, whatever you want, and you know, do whatever you want, go through any doors and whatever. But it's not linear like a lot of games are, where there's no real thought, like Mega Man, as to, you know, like, you know, where should I go? How should I do this? It's just like, well, I got to get from the left to the right, and there's a ladder, and that's the only way I can go, and that's exactly what I'll do, and I'll never even have to think about doing something else. Um, but this kind of finds a nice little middle ground between those two, which I really like. That's sort of my favorite thing in like FPS games, where you got sort of this middle ground between like super free world and then like super linear. And this is, it's really not linear at all. You've got a lot of choices, and it's just really cool. So this is probably my favorite part of the whole game, Half-Life. And so back to where I was with these jumping sort of things, and what tools you have at your disposal to make the jumps line up and stuff. So edge bug, jump. But you see, after that jump, there's not going to be enough time to clear this railing and then come down and land on it and do a conventional jump. And you're not going to have nearly enough speed to jump from here and make it across that gap. You have to jump on this railing somewhere, you know, like here ideally, to make this jump. And it helps if you can jump while unducked, so you have the option to duck later on over there and stuff. But there's a lot of speed here. You don't have a lot of room for air control. You can't take fall damage jumping on here, so your only options are either the edge bug or the jump bug. And if you did the jump bug, like say you jumped off of that light, you would, you know, end up like landing like right here. It'd just be shitty. I don't know. You could maybe jump and then duck and then land like here or something, and maybe make it. I doubt it, but it just so worked out so neatly and fluidly, almost effortlessly, that you could just edge bug that light and then jump and then do a jump bug off of this. So how the jump bug works is you're on your way up. Right as your feet come to this ledge here. And if you execute the plus jump command at just the right frame, where your feet come to this ledge at the right height and distance, the game interpolates in between frames that you were on this surface here and you jumped. So that's what happens. So right here, we're on the way up, and now we're jumping. So normally this doesn't happen. That's kind of a quirk in the Half-Life engine, in between sort of frames, calculations, how that works out. So that is the cool jump bug, and I believe it was Quad that was first kind of delved into that and documented it. He made this little video. So I think it was a thing that occasionally, you know, players would experience, maybe, but it would usually be something like on this railing, and it'd just be like kind of like, well, wait, what happened there? Because if I just do a jump, I have to wait till I come down a little bit before I can jump on that railing. But it seemed like I just kind of jumped instantly. Like it happened very rarely, and like, what the hell happened there? I don't know. But Quad went and looked at it, and he made this little cool video on I think it's the Crossfire map, where he's coming through the door, and you see it in slow motion where he's coming up, hits the railing, and jumps again while he was kind of still on his way up. Yeah, that's the jump bug. It's really sweet. It's not very easy to do, because you have to precisely line up your XY plane coordinates and your z-plane coordinates right at the slope, and then you also have to execute jump right then at the right frame. So it helps to have high FPS, and then it's just precision from there. But it was so fortunate, it was like clockwork how that worked out, where you do an edge bug there and you jump, and you'll almost always get the jump bug right there. It's just amazing how that worked out. I was really happy when I did that, and then to cap it off, the speed was just right that you could land on this railing or even edge bug this railing, which I think is what we did here. I think it's edge bugging this railing. Yep, that's an edge bug right there, because you see he didn't jump, he just kind of hit it and kept going. So yeah, I was really happy when I figured that out. And then we wanted to kill this bull squid, and this sort of thing is pretty easy for me to figure out. I just kind of did trial and error, and I figured out you can blow up this box. It damages this bull squid, but it doesn't quite kill him. But I think he needed 2, maybe 3 pellets to also hit the bull squid. But in order to blow up the box, you need, I think it was 6 pellets. So shoot, what is that? So 30 damage. I think you need 30 damage to kill this box, and you need like an extra 15 or something on this. So like 1 or 2 of the pellets could miss, but you had to blow up the box and then hit him, and I worked out, yeah, you can do it with a double blast. So that's pretty cool. It's the only, it saves a grenade, because another thing we were thinking, or at least I was thinking and planning, was to throw a grenade here to blow up this little thing and kill him, which I think I did in my first segment, or I can't remember, but yeah. But this saves that grenade, which is important, because we use all the grenades. That was cool. And then another thing that was cool about this segment when I was planning it out, how this sort of clockwork was all coming together, is that it was really easy to open this door along the way. Well, I'm not going to say really easy, but not for minimal extra effort. You can open this door right here. So the trigger to open this door is just basically behind this wall to the right. I mean, everyone knows this, and it's easy to just walk up there and open it. I mean, there's nothing groundbreaking there, but I guess the idea is that while on this, on the go, it's even so close that you don't even have to really look to the right. You can kind of just be looking straight, and if you do it at the right time, right after the edge bug here, you just open this thing. It's just pretty nice. And then another thing I was considering, which could be done in this segment, but it would make it a little harder, and it was better to do it in another segment that wouldn't be as hard, if that makes sense. Like, rather than making one segment really hard and another segment easy, you make both the segments just moderately hard, is the ideal way to segment things or plan, runs. So another thing, if we wanted to make this segment, harder, we would turn to the left really quick here and double blast those barrels, or kill them with one shot. I don't even know if they need a double blast, but it's not worth it. It's better to do that in the next segment when we come back the other way, and it makes it a lot easier to do all this stuff, so it could be better. Gina Cross in a hologram. Yes, it's a holographic. I am your holographic guide for this shit. This sort of thing. So this was a grenade. If you notice, we had kind of a lot of deliberation on what to do with these hound eyes, you know, because if we can make it so they're not there when we come back here, that's better, you know. It's better to have no hound eyes than hound eyes. I mean, it's really just that obvious, but also the corpses are a factor too, because they can block the objects, and we wanted to object boost along here, so Quad had worked out that you can nuke them by getting the grenade to come under these little ledges here. The grenade will nuke. And so it pretty much solves all of that problems. It just uses a grenade. We were even considering using 2 grenades here to kill all these hound eyes, but this only uses 1, so that's good. We're also considering, you know, just like shooting them with a shotgun, you know, like you wouldn't want to shoot this one when it's right here, but when it was over to the left, you could kill it with a shotgun, you know. I think with a double blast, you could kill like 2 of them and stuff, but yeah. But the easiest and best way was ultimately just 1 grenade, 1 nuke, solves all your problems. And so this is thrown, if you can see, it's going to bounce off this wall, kind of at this angle here, dink, and then land, dink, 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 under, you know, somewhere around here. And then, you know, or maybe even back here more, just like nuke, kill all these hound eyes, and their corpses, just give them to little gibbles. They're all dead. Poor hound eyes. And this was cool. Quad did a great job with this segment right here. This is not easy at all. Because if you see, what's so great about it is, I mean, one, the cornering and the turning, because you're coming from a place of too much speed to a tight corner where you have to slow down, which is always challenging. But then also, not only did he keep the speed really precise, but he managed to use double duck and jump to line it up so he's coming from a high jump, and then if you see, oh, so precise. So he's coming from a jump right here, and then just barely clearing this railing, so he's going to have the most speed coming down, you know, as soon as you can do it. Just barely clears this railing on the way down. So this fall is essentially started as soon as could have been possibly done, which is awesome. It was a thing we had talked about, like, is it better to jump and go over the railing, or maybe double duck and fall off to that side there, and then the routing, and then if you go back to 2000. 9 or 10, when this was one of the first things, I was thinking about on the SDA forums and talking about, the plan was just to, because we knew that at this time the jump bug worked, so this was one of the first obvious, things. Yeah, we're jump bug here. I mean, why the fuck not? It's a great place to do a damn jump bug. You don't have to use the ladder, you don't have to use the wall, sort of clipping things, and you can keep your speed when you fall. You can land further into the hallway. So obviously you wanted to do a jump bug here, and so I was hoping, you could spin around this hallway, this column, if you will, keeping as much speed as possible. But in attempts, I soon discovered that the way your path curves, if you were to jump off and curve speed, no matter how you did it, is like, this is just due to the size of the column, how wide you can spin, and then how far down the column is. It worked out that you would always be like 180 from this the hallway here where you need to go. Like, if the hallway was on this backside here, would have been a lot easier. It would have been perfect because you could have spun around, 1.5 times and gone through here. It was basically, this column was set up with its diameter and its height perfectly to spin 1.5 times and go through here. So, but this is on the other side, so you have to either spin like 1 time or 2 times. And both of those options were just really shitty. You just couldn't keep that much speed. It was just perfectly awkward, perfectly suboptimal. So, and then there was some other ideas I had, like edge bugging off one of these lights along the way so you don't fall as fast, things like that, but you're going to lose time. And, it was at some point along this where I was documenting all this on SDA forums. This is really kind of a cool story here. Some point along this, and if you notice, I think I have an image of it on my channel and YouTube and on here, where I was making the route thing here. But Ravix chimed in because she didn't talk too much on SDA forums or contribute too much to speedrunning. But he's a great player himself. He chimed in that, he's like, okay, well, if you're going to keep a lot of speed through there, and that's the plan, why don't you keep that speed and do a slope jump off this bug and, get up, here. And then, everyone, like myself, was like, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Definitely should do that. But then, I was working out the following, like, I just really can't keep that much speed. There's just no way. And then working out how much speed you need. You need like almost 900 units per second to jump off this and get to the sides here. There's just no way. But then at some point after that, Drugi came in on the forums, and it's like, a lot of people kind of read this stuff but don't comment. I mean, which is fine, but I guess a lot of those people play a lot of Half-Life themselves and are really good at it and have a lot of ideas sometimes. And so this is one instance where Drugi, because he was really relatively unknown at this point in like 2009, 2010, came up and said, because people knew you could land on this wire here, and have it shoot you off to the left, or to the right even, I guess, and it would break a lot of your fall, and you'd gain velocity. And he said, well, maybe you can land on this wire, and then use that speed, use the speed you get from hitting this wire from the Great Fall to jump through here and launch off the light. This, the button here. And I saw that he even made like a little mock demo kind of it with like no clip or whatnot. And then that's when I drew out that plan for that route, and I figured out the speed, and I was like, well, actually, the cornering is not too tight there. You actually have a decent room, and I figured out, the pass, and I was like, yeah, that's really not too far-fetched. That really might be a possibility. And then, but I knew, and everyone else knew, it's going to be really hard. And this was one of the, I don't know if I want to say only, but this might have been the only big trick like this with planning and all that we didn't actually confirm was possible until we came to the segment to do it. So essentially, when we did this segment, landing off this wire and doing that, if we weren't able to do it For whatever reason, like it was too hard, or the corners didn't work out right, or the landing and the jumps didn't work out right, or you couldn't get enough speed, or you'd have to get too much speed, or you'd have to hit this wall. Um, if for whatever reason it didn't work out right, we would have been pretty fucked. The plan would have had to change drastically. All the planning would have been for naught, essentially. We wouldn't have been able to do that trick. I mean, it would have sucked. But this was one of the things I spent a lot of time working on and hatching out. To the point where I was so confident that it would work that I just put it into the plan and told Quad, I am 99% confident this will work. And we should plan on doing it, which is what we did. And I guess how I was able to do that is, first I had to figure out the minimum speed needed to jump off here and make it over to there, which is not easy to do. And there's a lot of ways to do it. You jump back here, you jump off this railing. Can you edge jump off this? Just a lot of things to consider. Do you duck, jump here, unduck here, all this. So eventually kind of figured out the speed you needed and how that would work. And then along the way I figured out if you're at lower FPS, when you're hitting a slope surface that's higher than 45 degrees, like this one is just barely over 45 degrees, which is kind of bad, I guess. It'd be better if it was 45 or slightly less than 45, but it's not. It's not too bad, I guess. You'll lose less speed from it. I mean, so if the surface was 45 or less, you lose no speed, like horizontal speed. You just gain, it's all vertical. It's gravy, it's sweet. And plus it can stop fall damage. Those surfaces are amazing. But this one is just a little too steep. So you end up losing a lot of speed from it. It's converting horizontal speed into vertical speed. But I found the amount of horizontal speed you would lose sometimes could be less if your FPS was less, and it was really kind of an odd anomaly. And I think it just has to do with the framing of it, like the interpolation between frames and how many frames you do. But it wasn't consistent, to the point where I really wasn't confident if it was a real thing or not, but in the statistics of my attempts, it seemed like it had to be a real thing, where lower FPS you would lose less speed on surfaces like this. And it was even to the point where I got Quad to make a map with surfaces like this and stuff, and never really hatched out exactly how it worked, but it did conclusively find that it was a real thing. The exact nature of it is still uncertain, but there was one thing on the map. He just had like a slope surface, at this angle, as just on the ground, like a little thing, like this. And if you run at it at a normal FPS, like 250 at high speed, whatever, like 600 units per second, whatever, and you just run at it, you consistently are at the same sort of speed. Like it consistently, you lose this much speed and you gain this much height. But if you ran at it with like 20 FPS, it would almost always, you would lose no speed, because it was just a little sort of ledge he made on the map. You'd lose no speed in the horizontal plane, and you'd gain the same height vertically. It was really interesting. So I think it has to do with there being a small surface where you're only in contact with for a certain amount of time, and larger frames where the frame is greater than the amount of time you're actually in contact with the surface. So it ends up how the engine would work, it ends up deducing that you gain the z, the height velocity, the velocity upwards, but because the frame was large enough, it skipped over it, and it doesn't end up deducting your horizontal plane speed. Which makes sense. That's how other things work, like the jump bug and the edge bug and stuff. That's how those bugs sort of work. Things like that. But in my testing with this, it wasn't really like that. It wasn't like I would keep all the speed. It was kind of weird. So I'm still not really sure the full nature of that. So yeah, first I figured out that, and then I did a lot of testing with speed, jumping, starting from back here, here, all these angles, and figuring out how the jumps would work and how much speed you would need, and eventually, figured out the minimum speed, starting from back there, you could jump through here and make that jump. And I figured out it could work, but you had to have a nice angle, kind of in this direction here, and your jumps had to be lined up pretty damn precisely. For example, so we're jumping here, which happened to be pretty much the best place to start the jump from. But say if we jumped from up here, this wouldn't work at all. Or if we jump, from back over here, or back, 200 units behind us, it just wouldn't work at all. But jumping from right here is great, because it allows you to do this jump, and then the jump right there, which is going to set you up just right for this. Just like this. And then the speed, I found you could corner that and do the jumps and all that at a decent range of speed. I think it was you need to start at at least 830. But if you started at 930, I think it could still work. So there's about 100 units of leeway in speed there. And then let me go back. And then I was able to figure out, from this fall distance, when you land on this, how much speed do you get, because the surface is all to the left, right? So all of your downward speed is converted into perfectly to the left speed here. How much speed is that? And it was something like can't remember. It's pretty high. I want to say 800. You'd shoot you off into this wall at 800 speed. So then figuring out, what sort of vectors can you come through here, and what's your speed going to be. So then I had to do vector addition. Wrong button. Vector addition. So we're guaranteed, a precise angle and magnitude on the speed vector we gain from this this wire landing here. But then the actual initial vector angle and magnitude we start with, there's room, it can change a bit. So there were two ways we could come through, this way and this way. And I worked out, when you add the vectors, obviously you're going to get kind of a vector in this sort of direction, right? I worked out the exact angles and magnitude and all that. And found it was actually pretty fucking close to what it exactly needed to be in order for this to work out. It was actually really fucking close. And then again, you have a lot of options at your disposal in Gold Source to kind of fudge and manipulate things to your liking, to your choosing, such as like air brakes, holding back or forward in the air, air control, holding duck, holding, not holding duck, things like that. So with all that in mind, and the vector was actually a little greater than it needed to be. It could be, we could get more speed than we needed to make these jumps work out. And then figuring out where you would land should you do this, it just all kind of worked out like clockwork, where it would work. I knew it was going to be a big challenge getting across that wall. That was the one thing I was most worried about, was not hitting that, not hitting this wall right here. Right here, this thing. But I knew it would land pretty much right here. And I knew how the jumps worked out, and I knew the velocity, and I knew the magnitude of our tricks at our disposal to fine-tune things to our choosing. I knew the scope of that, and I knew how these jumps worked out. I knew the speed you needed to clear that. And so I was able to firmly assess that this would work. And it was really, kind of lucky, fortunate. It's not like we made this map. Some programmer at Valve made this map, like 10 years ago, when did they make it? It was like 97. They made this like 17 years ago, or more, probably 20 years ago. You're just making this thing like, put a wire here, like if you put that wire just, slightly to the left, this wouldn't work at all. Like if he made this hallway like a little more narrow here, this wouldn't work at all. If he made this, stick out, like, 20 more units when he made this wouldn't work at all. If that slope was just a little steeper, it wouldn't work at all. If the height down to here was, like 50% less or 20% less, we wouldn't get enough speed from the wire, it wouldn't work at all. If the wire angle was, slightly different, so you didn't gain as much speed, horizontally, it just wouldn't work at all. But everything was good enough that it did work. And as you can see, we did it. And it wasn't too easy. The hardest part really was the setup, to be honest. Quad did a great job with this segment, because he had to do that jump, fall down here, but then he managed to get it so his segment ended pretty much right like here. Managed to get it. This is not easy landing. You have to clear this ceiling. You have to have the right amount of speed. You have to hit the left side of this wire. This is really not easy landing at all. And so that was a done deal. And then this segment is kind of weird, because normally you'd crater on the middle of this wire, but you had to like hold duck at the very start of it and left or something, and you just barely miss cratering off the middle of this wire, and you'd hit the slope here. Just barely worked out. And so with that setup in mind, we could start this segment like this, and you know, do a little slowing down curving action right here to avoid hitting that, and it worked out really nice. And then that 5 damage was a thing we had deliberated on a lot. That's another thing we didn't plan on. It's kind of interesting. We plan on taking 5 damage on the way through there, and then 5 damage on the way back. But if you study this run carefully, you know that's not exactly what happened. You know, ideally we would skip this hurt trigger here, and there's ways to do it. You can, you know, just jump off of this over there, but the angling and the distance is such that you can't really do that in order to get the speed for the button jump there. Another thing is you could, you know, we're traveling pretty fast. We lower our FPS, but this hurt trigger is actually really fucking massive. Though it isn't really high. If you duck jump, you can go over the top of it just for a little bit. It's like just under duck jump height, but not quite enough that you can really clear it. So finagling the FPS to skip this hurt trigger really wasn't an option either. So we just had to eat the damage. It's 5 damage, but the amount of time it saves is worth it for sure. And then we were planning to take the 5 damage on the way back. I was working out. It's one of the things I spent a lot of time on that didn't really ever come to fruition because of a whim of good fortune. But I was planning on the way back to jump off of the corner of this pipe here. You can duck jump and then jump while ducked on the corner of this pipe. Keep all your speed and jump over that crap, and it works out fine. But the jumps and stuff have to line up nicely, and it has to be precise, and it's not easy. It's really fucking hard. And Quad didn't want to do it, and no one else really wanted to do it, and I was like, well, and I'm not even sure if the jumps are gonna work out nice. I think it kinda is, but I don't know. So let's just plan on taking the 5 damage. It's not worth it. I don't think the jumps would work out nicely, and then plus, I mean, it's gonna gimp the segment of itself, because if you can go faster if you don't have to worry about that, and just go through and whatnot. And sometimes, you know, that 0.05 seconds you are losing by making the segment unnecessarily harder is not worth, you know, the 5 or 1 damage or health points you save. Health is not always such a rare commodity, and there's not always so many great ways to use the health to save time. So we were planning just to take the 5 damage on the way back too, but through a whim of good fortune, this was not found out until we actually ran the segment itself exactly as we had it set up, you know, with this stuff. You know, plan was always to land through this button just like this to get as much speed off it as possible, but it just works out just so nicely that if you do that slope landing on that button, jump off the railing there, and then continue on in the most natural fashion, you will end up able to jump off the zombie's head right here. And yeah, this was not planned at all. It just worked out perfectly that the zombie was right here to jump off of. That he stayed there, and the jumps and all that, and the speed and his positioning, it all worked out just marvelously that you could jump off him you know, not hit the ceiling here and all this, make this corner keep the speed is just great. And so you see, we didn't ever hit that hurt trigger from the radiation that's leaking out of the pipe there, or whatever it's supposed to be. So that saved us 5 health, and that wasn't planned at all until we actually did it. And then another thing that wasn't planned at all, this is actually a lot more interesting, I think. You may have heard from Quad and Cool Kid, is that this is the thing I kind of hatched out before, you know, trying to figure out, how am I doing? Because I mean, there's a health charger behind this wall, and I was trying to figure out all these places where you have to kind of go past the health charger, but you don't want to spend time gaining the health. But in the small time where you're going past it, you potentially have free access to the health charger at no time cost to get extra, like 1 or 2 or 3 health points, you know. So this is one of the things I looked into, and I found, whatever reason how the view angles work out and whatnot, if you run up the ladder backwards and you just hold use key, no matter what, you know, even if you exit it the fastest way, you're always going to gain 1 health from the health charger. It's kind of neat. But if you go up forward, it doesn't work. So the plan was to gain 1 health from this health charger and keep going as fast as we could. But we gained 4. So we spent an extra 0.3 seconds gaining an extra 3 health. Why did we do that? Well, the proof is in the pudding. When we activated that power generator down there, if you ever stick around to watch it activate, whatnot, you push those 2 buttons and shit, there's actually a huge sequence of shit that happens that I think Valve was intending you to like stick around and wait and watch, and then like you get trapped up there, because they have like a auto save like right before there, and so they're expecting you to die, essentially die with the scientist on that power generator, because you get stuck up there and the things come into the sides and shock it in the voltage and you can't get down, you're stuck up there. But if you're any good at the game, you just push the buttons and you're out the ladders and you're out there before you know half of that even happens. But it still takes a long time for the triggers to actually complete their sequence and for the flag to come up that the power generator is on. And because we were so fast jumping off that zombie's head and shit and coming around there and all that, we're able to get to, this is where the level normally would transition, we're able to get to here before that finishes. And so if we exit this level, continue on, we're not going to have the flag for the power. The power's not going to be on. So, and then another great thing about this delay load and the object boost here, is that it's delaying the loading of the next level until we get to all the way to here, which is sweet, because all that time we're waiting on the power generator to activate. It doesn't activate until right before then. So this was all timed out just perfectly. I guess you could say altruistically this is perfectly timed. So it doesn't activate until right here. It just finished activating and the level changes. And none of us had ever even considered that. We didn't even know that the flag didn't come up until the thing had finished its sequence and shit. I mean, we just assumed, you push the buttons and you're done. Get out of there as fast as you can, it doesn't matter. But it's not like that at all, actually. And so the power didn't come on until right here. So this delay load really helped us out because if we weren't doing this route with the delay load and using the box and shit, it wasn't for delay loading, we probably would have just grabbed, you know, like 20 health off that charger and wasted, the, you know, the time dicking around here waiting for the power thing to finally activate. But as it so worked out with the delay load and the box boost, we only got there 0.3 seconds too soon. And so, of course, what we did is just grab use that extra 0.3 seconds of dead time. It's dead time. It's 0.3 seconds of time we can't use. We're waiting on shit to happen. Use that time we're waiting on shit to happen to grab 3 health. And so the timing is perfect because if we grab 4 health, it would be too late. If we grab 2 health, it'd be there too soon. We wouldn't have used all of that dead time most efficiently. So that was kind of a little neat thing, and I'm actually kind of happy that worked out like that because it was only 0.3 seconds. We did get 3 health out of it, but it's just the fact that we were so fast that the game's triggers couldn't keep up with us, and we had to do this extra sort of planning, finagling here, and incorporate it into the run. It's really kind of cool. I don't think there's any, you know, this has never been done before in Half-Life. Like, even if you know clip, you know, from there, I don't think you're gonna make it up in time because you can run up the ladder faster than you can move no clipping, and we jump through there faster. So this is probably the only instance, you know, where this happened ever in Half-Life, where someone was too fast for that power thing to activate. I mean, which I guess, I mean, makes sense, but it's kind of interesting. It's the only time in the history of the universe that ever was relevant. And I doubt Valve knows that. And then, okay, that light trigger. There's actually a lot of history behind that light trigger there. So this sort of thing, Quad was really the forerunner in, I guess you say, like, our resident expert in object boosting. He kind of was leading the charge in that and finding out these ways to move along with objects, you know, with the scripts running and stuff. So you're moving at like the same speed as the object and you're keeping it with you. And it was his idea first to delay load, you know, the object, the box over to here, because if you try to, you know, just transition through that normally, objects won't transition from one level to the next, they just disappear. And then if you go back to the level and load, then they're there again. And you go back to the next level, they're gone. So the only way to get this box over to here is to delay load. And as you can see, you're not normally meant to be in this part of the map. It's supposed to transition before then. So this kind of goes back to that epiphany we had back at the elevator in Office Complex, where we used the box with the elevator to go through there. So this is the same sort of thing. So Quad came to me with his demo, you know, like, hey, look at this. I can move the box delay load over to here, and I think he was, you know, and then obviously trying to ramp boost and get up there. But I think he was going off of this ramp or something, or this light, you know, he was trying different things. But it wasn't working. He was like, man, it's close, but I can't get it to work. Like, what do you think? And then I just used, you know, adjusting your speed and testing and running, and I kind of quickly found that this light here was just amazing slope. It's really, I mean, look at the angle. It's perfect. This is a 45-degree angle. This is absolutely ideal for slope boosting, slope height gain. And so I worked out, you know, the speed you needed. It was, I don't know, like 1500 or 1200, and you could just, I think you're able to jump from here and then hit this, so you have the height from your jump, and it worked out great. But Claude didn't think you could do it off this light, because I think he was trying something like just hitting it, you know, with like a double duck and then sliding into it, but you needed the jump, I think, was the key, and the angling from here. And so I didn't really do much. I just kind of like took this thing. Quad had, he was so close. He was so close to discovering all this, and I just like, oh well, just go with this angle, jump, and hit the light. And then Quad was like, oh damn, it works, it's perfect. And so yeah, that's only because of this sort of thing was this whole new route with the wings even possible. So yeah, Quad and I had a lot of sort of collaborative discoveries like that. And that's if you study innovation at all, you'll know that is the most common things innovations come about is from two or more people combining ideas, sort of connecting the link. To say like you might have some person that's expert in one field and they have bridged this sort of idea that gets them from here to here. And then you have this other person in this other part of the world that's kind of an expert in a somewhat related overlapping field, but entirely different. And they have, you know, hatched out this amazingly ingenuitive idea to, you know, come from here to here. And then at some point, these two people, you know, one of them hears the other's idea, you know, an internet forum or something, and they combine, and now you've completed something that's actually useful, you know, the innovation. So, Quad and I had a lot of talking on Skype and sharing demos and stuff, and a lot of collaborative sort of stuff like this happened where, you know, Quad had completed the innovation, the ingenuity all the way, you know, to here with the object boost, and then I was just able to look at that and figure out, well, this light is great. Just jump here into the light. And so complete the link, and now we have this amazing trick that works amazingly, which is so great. And this was really the fastest route. We calculated, you know, with distance and bunny hopping, if you wanted to go to this wing first, you know, that first grenade jump at the start of the long elevator, if we wanted to curve through here and how the speed would work out, and then come through here and jump over to that wing with grenade boost and whatnot. And mainly because of that trick there, this was just hands down faster. This was, I can't remember the exact like times and stuff, but it was just obviously, clearly, plainly faster. Another thing to consider was when you come through this wing last, you're already on the middle level, which saves a lot of time versus coming through the bottom wing last. You have to go up an extra set of ladders. And it's just a lot slower route. This was just perfect because you come up from, you get into the middle room on the way back, you're already in the middle level, and you're in such a place where you can just jump right up to the button without really any delay. You know, it's not like you're on the opposite side of the room and you have to run more and then jump up. It's like as soon as you come to the door, you jump up. So this was sweet route. It's entirely revolutionary route idea. Look at that, I paused it like right, blowing up this shit. But yeah, I am getting pretty tired. Talking, my voice is getting a little parched, and and yeah, I was planning to meet up with some friends to work on some things together. So I am probably gonna have to call this broadcast short pretty soon. I don't know how this time works out for people, but it's generally pretty good for me. It's like my Friday morning kind of thing. If I wake up late like I did today. Um, it's 10 p.m. Pacific time. 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, and then 19 o'clock Central European time. So I know a lot of people that are interested in Gold Source, Half-Life, are in Europe, Russia, Sweden, whatever, Finland. Um, Probably more so than America right now, even. So I'm trying to work that out. So this is kind of like Friday evening, at like 7 p.m. Friday evening for you people in Europe. But I did get kind of a late start today, so it's what time is it? So I've been on for like 5.5 hours almost, kind of, sort of. I did kind of take a morning nap and I had to eat and shit, so 5.5 hours. So it's been, yeah, it's like just past midnight in center of Europe. Oh, you're welcome, Query. No problems. Thanks for watching. I wouldn't do this if no one watched. So yeah, big ups to you viewers. Wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing this. And then if you have any friends or whatever, and tell them about it. I think I'm planning to do like Friday at this time regularly. I should start earlier next week. I was late this week. My apologies. So I hope this is a decent time for people. I don't know, but I'm planning on next Friday doing the same time, but I'll start on time this time. And yeah, I might change things. I don't know. I'm trying to figure stuff out. And then I am working on a little YouTube video to kind of. I'm trying to keep the whole thing under an hour. That just kind of covers the main points of emphasis and confusion in this run, so people don't, aren't confused about it and don't question it or understand things. So I mean, there's a lot of things to be curious about. I mean, if you're a decent, actively open-minded human being, I mean, most people that don't play a lot of Half-Life and see this, you're probably going to be pretty curious, like, well, how is this going on, because, I mean, any friends, I've showed speedrunning and stuff, like, they always, have a bunch of questions. They're always like, oh, well, how the hell does that work? Like, how did you do this? Like, how does that work? How does this work? What's going on here? Why'd you do that? Things like that. And that's good. I love curiosity and open-mindedness, so I think it's kind of my duty to help facilitate that sort of learning process. I guess I don't vibe well with the mindset, like, because I had to work so hard to figure these things out and struggle through it. Like, I'm old school. I'm like an OG. Like, I had to, like, move all this water on my head when I was in India, but now you're in America. You don't have to work that hard. I don't really vibe well with that sort of philosophy. I kind of feel like there's no reason to make things harder for other people than they need to be. I'd rather communities be larger. I'd rather the initial learning curves be, smaller. There's no reason for learning curves to be greater than they need to be. There's no reason why information shouldn't be documented and readily accessible for the whole world. Things like that. I just feel like with the mindset of openly sharing, communicating, documenting the, life on Earth, human species in particular can, grow from one generation from the next, sort of thing. We have a large collective wisdom, but if we're not able to communicate that and share that with everyone else, there's really most of it's wasted. It's not being utilized to its full potential in any sort. So I really want to help lessen the learning curve getting into Half-Life speedrunning, to learning how to play, how the gold source engine works, how to do it better, how things work, kind of break it down. So it's easier for people to get started, to learn. They don't have to come from the school of hard knocks. There's no reason why that should be the case. That sort of thing. So yeah, I'm hoping to help people along the way, and make community larger, more successful, get some new talent involved, because honestly, the kids are always going to be the best at anything. If you start from a younger age, knowing, what your predecessors figured out, and you can learn from that, and you have a very, malleable mind that can pick up and learn things faster, and, develop those synapses and stuff. There's always going to be better. You look at any esport. It's always the case. Any really sport in general, to be honest. So yeah, I'm just hoping like the future generations come out. I know there's going to be more new talent. Like Quadrazid kind of emerged and whatnot. I guess I was his original inspiration, and he was younger when he first saw my speedrun, and I kind of inspired him, and he started trying to do the same stuff, and he had kind of an AG community background, which helped him. But a lot of people don't have that sort of. Those communities aren't around anymore. There's no AG, there's no Team Fortress Classic communities really to speak of. So that sort of thing to kind of boost you over the learning curve isn't there for anyone anymore. Like if it wasn't for AG Half-Life Deathmatch that Quad played a lot, prior to seeing my speedrun, I'm sure he never would have taken the time to show a lot of interest and figure out how to speedrun faster and do things better and develop his bunny hopping and circle jumping to the virtuoso that he is today. So I hope to kind of develop more interest around the world and explain these things and make it so people can just download a simple mod that covers all of the stuff and makes it easy for people to start up and start speedrunning, or just playing Gold Source at a high level, doing cool shit. Because I know a lot of people want to do it. There's a lot of young kids out there that ask about it and want to do it, but it takes a lot of motivation to try to hatch that shit out, by yourself in a single player environment. There's not a lot of reward and the progress is slow. The only reason I got to be so great at, TFC and Gold Source was because it was, it was a social sort of fun thing, and it was rewarding. You're playing with real human beings online in real time, hatching out grenade jumps and rocket jumps and doing fun stuff and, winning games, competitive games and that sort of thing. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have had the motivation and interest to, be obsessive about, Gold Source and all that. But yeah, if this stuff is explained and it helps people satisfy their interest and curiosity, because I know there's a lot of people that want to get into speedrunning more, a lot of potential big talents and stuff. So I just hope I can facilitate that and make a larger, better community. So yeah, thanks for watching. You guys are a big part of that. Hope to see some of you doing some stuff yourselves, and yeah, it's great that you're this interested to come watch all this and learn all these little details here and there. So thank you for watching, and I'm gonna say next week, same time, same place. I'm open to doing something different. I'm not sure what. I'm hoping to have at least one part of the little commentary thing finished by then, and yeah, I've got some more free time this week, so yeah, that's good. Cool. Yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one. Until next time. And stay, yeah, beer, I'll stay thirsty. But you stay leet. You stay leet, my friends. Stay leet.